Greetings, everyone, and welcome to episode 29 of Teaching Tales. Once again, this is a podcast totally devoted to stories. I am Brent Coley, your host. Joining me today is a good friend and colleague, Michelle McCarthy. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. And for those who don't know you like I do, tell our listeners, my mom and dad, because if nobody else, I know mom and dad are listening, who is Michelle McCarthy? What does Michelle McCarthy do?
I have been teaching for over 20 years now, most of it in early childhood education. I started in kindergarten, and for the last 10 years, I've been a literacy coach for the district. So I go around the whole district and help teachers to with their reading and writing instruction with their students.
And you are amazing. I mean, you were here today working with a couple of our grade levels. I mean, yeah. Awesome stuff.
Thank you.
And today, when I reached out to you and about possibly coming on the podcast, the terms grit and perseverance and resilience came up. You have some stories to share in that area. And as we were talking before we started recording, we hear that word. I mean, perseverance, that's like, I don't want to say a buzzword because that diminishes its value, but that is a buzzword now in education, but it's an important one. All of our kids, all the way down to our kindergarten students, know what that word means, never giving up. But typically when we hear that word in education, we were talking about that intervention pyramid, the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, that there's two sides of that pyramid. There's the academic side, and then there's the socio-emotional side. And I think when we hear grit, perseverance, resilience, I think typically educators, teachers, administrators, they're thinking of the academic side of that. So, I'm learning to do problem solving in third grade math. I come to a hard problem, don't give up, show that grit, build that stamina. But today we wanted to talk about kind of the other side of perseverance, and that would be the emotional side, the relational side. And you wanted to share and have some stories that are powerful, and I think people will really get a lot of, I'm excited about hearing what you have to say because I think that it's really going to have a big impact. It's an underrepresented, I think, story that needs to be shared. So
yeah, I think sometimes that we're so focused on the academics and the students excelling in that area. But what we fail to understand is if the social emotional side is not built and built upon, that the academic side actually is not enhanced as much. Mm-hmm. And for some students, you spend so much time building up the academic side, you forget that they also need to have grit and perseverance when other things come up that are not school related per se. And it's I hope that my story is not too sad. It's actually something that I believe so passionately about that the entire summer was spent creating a nonprofit to help us to reach out to kids to help them to see that they can persevere through their emotional and non-academic struggles and the obstacles that will inevitably come up in those areas.
We absolutely we live in an imperfect world, so we're gonna come across those things. It's how can we try to overcome those. So go ahead and share if you wanted.
Yes, and what was interesting is it wasn't till today that I knew that you have a connection to this story in a way. I have had the great pleasure of teaching a student. I tutored him from the time he was in kindergarten until the Thursday before his junior year when he died by suicide. And the connection that we have is that both of our children had his mom as a preschool teacher. And I did not even know that until today. But this child, mini man, he was 16 years old. He persevered through the academic part of his life, and it never occurred to me that he wasn't gritty and that he wouldn't persevere through other things in his life. He was he had several learning disabilities, and so learning to read was very, very difficult for him, and mathematics as well. So he struggled in all areas. And so with him, he came to tutoring twice a week, every week, from kindergarten till the end of 10th grade. And to see his progress, he actually, the very last reading inventory he took in our district, he actually got grade level, reading level, which was just absolutely amazing. And that summer, he read his very first novel. He read a novel from beginning to end. He read The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. And he had never read a book from beginning to end. And so I was able to entice him to read because he had a love for history. And he particularly liked to learn about the wars. And so I was able to get him a book that would still be historical, but that would be very interesting and at a level that he could read. Exactly. And I promised him we'd watch the movie together, which unfortunately we never got to do. But anyway, so he persevered through all that. And he was also a kid that never wanted to bother anybody. And he was very, very quiet and very shy and unassuming. So oftentimes in classrooms, I don't think that people understood, maybe they thought he was aloof or that he didn't care, but he was just extremely shy and not wanting to bother anybody because he needed extra help. And I would often say to him, why don't you ask the teacher for help? And he'd say, I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to bother them.
I don't want to bother.
And it's not that the teacher's ever said, I'm not going to help you. But he didn't want to bother them, which is what came up in the end, is that, the day I tutored him on Thursday, he died on Sunday. That Thursday I had asked him, how are you doing? How are things going? He said, I'm fine. On Saturday, they bought his school clothes, and on Sunday he was gone. It's so hard because I thought he had that grit.
Yeah.
And so I came to understand that kids, we have to develop the social emotional side as well. And so what we've done over the last few years is we actually call what we're doing Project 99, which is interesting. People also always ask us why Project 99. Well, Diego's favorite football player was J.J. Watts, fabulous Texas player who's doing amazing things, raising money for all the flood victims. But anyway, Diego loved J.J. Watts, and he wanted to be just like J.J. Watts. And his football number is 99. In his very last year, his junior year, Diego was number 99. And so Diego's mom, being a preschool teacher, she understands that social emotional side. And she said, you know what I want? I want to call this Project 99 because I want people, there's not enough kindness in this world, and I want people to think of 99 things that they can do for other people just to spread that kindness out. And so that's where Project 99 came from. And in our grief, we wanted to do something. We wanted to make a difference. And so Diego's dad, who is about the strongest man I've ever met in my entire life, the day Diego died Sunday, on Monday, he was down with the football team, telling them exactly what happened. He wanted them to hear from him. He wanted them to know that it wasn't their fault, that Diego didn't tell anybody. He was, in my research, I've read that 4 out of 5 people who die by suicide, there's some kind of sign. And with Diego, there just wasn't. There wasn't because, again, he didn't want to bother us.
Sure.
That's who he was. And so Diego's dad, we do these things that we call Project 99 panels, and we have a group of 4 of us that we go out and we go into the schools, and we talk about that perseverance and that, social emotional side, and we let them know that there are going to be times when they're going to be sad. Sometimes life is really rough, and life puts up obstacles, but you have to persevere through it. There's always something better if you just hold on. And we also talk about play for Diego, and what that is that Diego took himself out of the game. You need to stay in the game, and you need to stay in this game because each one of you is important, you matter, and you have something to give to this life. And so it's our goal through Project 99 to not only bring suicide awareness, but to let them know that they can persevere through the academic side, but they can also persevere and have that resilience on the emotional side as well.
Well, and we were talking earlier today about when you said I didn't want to bother. I mean, and I have heard that from students in math. I mean, let's just take a math problem or a language arts problem. I mean, how many kids, as a teacher, they won't raise their hand because they don't know the answer and they don't know how to do it. I mean, we had this happen today, talking with Mrs. Caldwell, our assistant principal, and she was in a classroom and we were both in there, and after walking out, she said that one of the kiddos raised his hand. She went over to him and said, "What's up, bud?" And he said, "Never mind." And he said, no. But she stuck. She said, no. Now, it would have been very easy to just move on, but she didn't. She said, no, what's up? And I think she even said, never mind again, said, no, do you need some help? And he finally said, like, I don't know how to do this. And she was able to squat down and help him do that. But that is not an uncommon, academically, a common thought, I think, for students. I mean, we're at the elementary level, but I think, my son's in middle school, my daughter's in high school. I mean, and I know that there are times when you hear them, I don't want to bother somebody, or I don't want to look stupid by raising my hand or something like that. But you had said something else about that being comfortable.
Yes, safe environment.
Can you share?
Yeah. So what you talked about reminded me of safety in the classroom, and that feeling that it's okay for me not to know, and to have that connection to your teacher and to your classmates, to know that it's okay not to know, and that I'm going to go on. But having that too in your emotional as well.
Yeah.
So being able to have that connection to say, I'm not feeling right now, or I'm really sad and I don't know what to do with it. In our society, we don't have those kinds of conversations. In fact, the word suicide, when I say those things, it makes people very uncomfortable. But I have learned over time that if we don't talk about these things, the kids see them as taboo, and when they're feeling that way, they don't want to reach out either, because they don't. So the big thing is to make those connections and to have those people in your life, whether it be an adult or another student or a counselor at the site, that can do that. Because one of the things that came up that was really interesting is that one of the girls that speaks with us in our Project 99 panels, she is a graduate of Murrieta Valley High School, and she had some issues when she was younger, a lot of stress as a freshman and a sophomore, and she was cutting. And she was self-harming, and it's something that happens more often than we'd like to see. And so we asked her, we said, when you were feeling that way, when you felt like you needed support, how many teachers in your high school career do you feel like you could have told about this? And it wasn't nearly enough. I mean, she said something like maybe 1 to 2 each year that I felt enough of a connection to, that I could have shared what was going on. And I know we have fabulous teachers. Sure. And so it got me thinking, am I one of those one or two?
Out of 7, if there's a 7-period day, and she says, let's just be generous and say 2.
Yeah.
Am I one of the 2?
Am I one of the 2? Or would I be one of those 5? Because I just didn't know how important that connection with students is, right? And I really have to ask myself that. I'd like to think I was the one of the 2, but you have to reflect on your teaching and ask yourself, are you doing everything you can to make a student who might be having some emotional difficulties? Because you talk about how that student can share his academic weakness. Imagine if it was an emotional weakness, right?
Sure.
Even more so.
Yeah.
So how can we as teachers make those connections with students so that when they are, whether they're having an academic issue or an emotional one, how can we make it so that they feel comfortable enough to come to us and know that they can be safe with us? And
I think, there's such an emphasis on academics. And I'm not saying that's a bad. I mean, there should be. We obviously want kids to succeed at high levels.
Is, right?
But that's not where it should. It can't start there. I mean, in many of our previous episodes. I mean, I think it's episode 7 with Rushton Hurley. It's all about making those connections with students, because if we don't have those, if they don't feel safe, I mean, if a student doesn't feel safe, he or she is not going to reach. I mean, there may be some learning going on, but it's not going to be nearly close to the maximum
exactly, the potential.
The potential that could be reached. So, I mean, so every time we have one of these episodes, I always try to like ask myself, okay, if I'm a listener listening to this, and I am because I'm listening to you share, what am I going to take away from this? So anyone listening, it's like, yes, academics are important, but relationships have got to trump everything else, because are you one of the seven? Are you one of the two, one or two?
Yes.
Are you? I think that would be my challenge. If you're listening to this, ask yourself, am I one of those? Am I the teacher that every single student in my class would feel comfortable coming and sharing either, I don't know how to do this math problem, or I'm feeling down.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling. Or
I'm feeling bullied.
So and so's picking on me, or something's going on at home between mom and dad, or whatever it is. Are we setting up the environment where kiddos are going to feel safe?
Well, and in defense of teachers, I will say so many pressures are put on us on the academic side.
Absolutely.
Not just by our sites or our districts, but by the state and by, because we have our whole job is to educate.
There's accountability. There's accountability
Absolutely.
there, and absolutely.
Absolutely. So you have to ask yourself, what is it that I can do in my day that would allow me to make those connections with students? And one simple way I was thinking of is greet your kids at the door.
Yeah.
Give them a handshake. There's that fancy guy that does the little handshake for every single student that walks in. We can't be that way. But just reaching in, looking them in the eye, and just saying, I'm glad you're here today. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you're here today. That would be enough.
And one of my goals this year is to call more students by name. And it's one of the stories I've shared. It was one of the earlier episodes of the times. When you call students by name,
Exactly.
There's power in hearing a name. And it's one of the favorite stories I've ever told is the time when I was at the middle school as an AP, and kiddos, one of my jobs was to greet kids at the gate as they're coming in, checking for dress code and greeting kids. And I remember one morning, group of kids coming in, morning ladies, morning gentlemen, hey, morning Christian, have a great day. And as Christian walks by, he mumbled something. Now when kids, middle school especially, mumble something, you're like, whoa, what are you talking, what are you saying? And I said, hey, what was that? And he turned to me and he said, I'm special.
Wow.
And I was like thinking, yeah, you are, but what prompted you to say that? And he said, because you said, good morning, ladies, good morning, gentlemen, good morning, Christian. You said my name, I'm special.
Wow.
Out of the mouth of a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old, he said, you said my name, I'm special. Wow. So it's like, the high five, the handshake, the fist bump, the name. And I hear it as a principal of an elementary school. Kids will walk by and say, hi, Julia. He knows me. He knows who I am. That may be an easy way to make somebody feel special, to make somebody feel safe, where they may come up to you. And sometimes you're surprised when kids will come up to you, and sometimes they'll come and give you a little TMI, where it's like, whoa. But that's a compliment that
they feel
they feel safe enough to share something about that. Is there info? Because this is a huge passion, and again, I appreciate you coming on and sharing this, because this is a more serious serious episode.
Exactly.
Not that other ones haven't been serious. It's more of a somber, maybe is a better. But boy, this is.
Yeah, but there's lessons to be learned.
Everybody, and that's the whole point of this doing this podcast is, if somebody can listen and be like, oh wow, I need to give someone a hand. I need to give my kids a handshake. I need to call them by name. I need to ask how they're doing. If that could literally save someone's life.
Yeah.
Literally.
And it can.
It doesn't take, it could simply be, how you doing today? And honestly, as a teacher, sometimes you are the only
kind face that looks at them in a day. Our kids face so many things that none of us now. Here we have a Diego where his family was and still is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing family. So, suicide doesn't just happen to kids who have a rough life.
Sure.
But imagine if you are that kid who never gets those kudos at home and things are always rough for them, how your one word could be the only nice thing they hear all day long, and how much of an impact that can make on kids.
I know we just started the school year. We're a couple weeks into the school year. One of the best quotes that I see at the end of every summer, and I put it on our little whiteboard as encouragement in our staff lounge, is remember that some kids waited all summer to come back to school, or something to that effect. It's like, some people, I can't wait for summer to. Some kids don't want summer to come.
Yeah.
Because, or winter break, or spring break, or that 3-day weekend that we just had but they don't want that, because that means they're 3 days away from you as the teacher, the safety of your classroom. I'm just thinking back to, I don't know if it was you or somebody else, we were talking about what I remember from my elementary school days. When I think of all the way back to my kindergarten and first grade classrooms, I remember every teacher. I remember virtually nothing of the lessons that we learned. Nothing.
I don't either.
I mean, and I think most people would probably say, oh, she was great about teaching us fractions. Nobody remembers. No.
Never.
They remember how you made them feel. I remember the makeup of the classrooms in terms of how her reading corner was over here, and she had this library over here, and our desks were arranged in this way. That's what you remember. It's and it's like, and that's not in the frameworks. That's not in the. But that's where it starts. That's the foundation. Speaking of framework, that's the foundation of
learning.
Of learning.
Yeah.
It all starts with that love, that care, that safe environment. Because if kids feel safe, they're going to learn.
Great things happen.
Great things happen. They may need support academically and stuff like that, but all the support in the world academically is going to mean.
It's it's funny because I said at the beginning of our talk that I started in early childhood with social-emotional. We do a lot of social-emotional work, and we figure once they get past kindergarten or first grade that they don't need those kinds of things. Oh. And I honestly think that the older they get, the more they need that. They need to know you care. They need to know that they're special and that they matter. That was one of the things that Diego used to tell people, because, you find out all these stories afterwards about things that happen, and they break your heart, honestly, because Diego was one of the kids that stood up for other kids. And so there were several people that have come back to Diego's family and said, do you know, when I was a freshman and kids were picking on me, he would tell me not to listen to them because I matter. He would say, you matter. And yet they'd come back and they'd say to Diego's family, why didn't he tell us so that we could do the same for him that he did for us?
Yeah.
And so, part of this is going out and, starting from these little babies to let them know that they have to talk and they have to, they can, things do get better, all that kind of thing. That's where the Project 99 is coming from. We want these kids to understand that there are things that go on that are not so great, but that if they just stick around, great things are going to happen.
What you said just really resonated with me a second ago of the older they get. That's such a false mindset, or that many people think
fallacy.
We're sitting in an elementary school recording this right now, and you walk into classrooms and just look at a classroom decorated, the higher up you go,
the less warm it looks.
That's a nice way to say it. The less warm it looks, and why don't older kids deserve that?
Yeah.
What you said resonated, because I was driving my junior in high school daughter to school this morning, and she said, "Dad, I saw my English teacher from last year yesterday, and he said, "Hey, how you doing?" She loved him. She loved him, and he gave her a compliment. He says, "Oh, how's it going?" "Oh, I'm taking an AP class, and it's kind of hard. I'm getting used to it." And he said something along the lines of, "You're an amazing student, and you're such a strong writer. You're gonna do great." And I just kind of looked out of the corner of my eye, and she's beaming as she's saying this. This is a girl that's almost 17 years old. That the positive words from one of her former teachers buoyed her. And if she's not necessarily getting that from her current teacher, she got it from her old teacher.
Right.
That could at least keep her going. And you never know when a word like that, I mean, I'm a words of affirmation type of guy. A kind word can buoy me for a week.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, I mean, it's just those things that you never know what kind of impact that could have. So Project 99?
Yeah, it's called Project 99. The official name is Project 99 Play for Life Incorporated. And we're just starting. Like, we just got incorporation at the beginning of August, and we're still finishing up some of the paperwork. But our goal is to bring education and awareness and hopefully prevent some of these suicides. It's an epidemic right now, and so we actually have a website, project99.org.
Nice.
And right now it's very basic, but as time goes on, we're going to put lots of resources on there for families, but and caregivers and students. You know, we want it to be a place where you can come if you've suffered a loss. We want it to be a place where if you're feeling in crisis and nobody's around, where can you go? We want it to also be a place where parents can look to how can I build this resiliency in my child? Some of the other things we talk about is empathy. One of the biggest things is I'm reading another book called Unselfie. I'm reading all these books. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of that one. Yeah.
But she talks about how if we can just have empathy, a lot of these things that are interesting in our world going on, that could be prevented if an Israeli could see a Palestinian and see, wow, they're just like me. You're less likely to do something or harm somebody who reminds you of you than somebody who you see as somebody who is completely different than you.
Deep down, we're way more alike than we think.
And so that's our big push, is to go into right now we're hitting the high schools and doing our talks and getting them aware and to support each other. The other thing is having the kids be kind to each other and having that empathy, and because you want, yes, you're wearing your Be Nice shirt,
it's Be Nice Day,
orange Be Nice shirt, but
you got to start young.
You do.
I mean,
yes,
it's.
Yeah, well, our big thing is eventually we would like to see a K-12 mental health kind of thing that starts in the elementary schools, and they're already starting now in the elementary schools. I work at a school where our counselor is also on our board of Project 99. She's amazing. But we want to see that these kids down here. Now, we're not going to talk about suicide with kindergarten to fifth.
It's got to be age appropriate.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about when life throws up an obstacle. Guess what? You go around it. You don't give up, and we still don't know why Diego did what he did, but we do know that he wanted to go to USC, and we do know that when he went to the USC camp, one of the coaches just offhandedly said to him, "Wow, you have great feet, and you're agile and you're fast. You're just a little short for your position." And that's where we see that perseverance, where he persevered through school. But what he saw was, I worked my tail off to bulk up and to be a good football player, and I'm too short at 6'2".
I can't control that.
Exactly, and so we wonder if that's what made him give up. We honestly don't know, and there was nothing. It's really easy. One of the other things is to look back and see how you could have fixed things.
Yeah.
But now I can look forward because I know so much more about what to look for in students and how important it is to make them feel special and to make them feel loved and to let them know that, that obstacle came up, but you know what? Maybe you don't go to USC. Maybe you go to Montana, where that town, my daughter went to Montana for college. They put football players pictures
Sure.
up in the town.
You're in the
whole
Applebee's.
school closed down, right? The
Yeah.
whole town closes down, and they all go to the football game. I wish I told them that. Look, at SC, it's an awesome school. Don't get me wrong,
Sure.
but you would have been one of so many. You go to Montana, and you're like a football god.
Yeah.
Imagine that, right? So you just have to help kids from the youngest ages, just to see that they matter, and that they have to get through the academic and the emotional things that come their way.
So much more than academics. Love them, hug them, give them those high fives, and tell them. Just tell them.
You matter.
Tell them you matter. That's it. Michelle, thank you so much. Good talk, and I hope people got as much out of it as I did, because we talked a little bit, but I didn't. I'm hearing this for the first time too. A lot of the details of the story. So thank you so much, and for everyone. So project99.org,
Yes,
and we'll put that in the show notes too for anyone listening. And I want to thank everyone for listening. Again, totally appreciate you. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe. You can subscribe in iTunes or Google Play, and if you really like it, you can give us a like in iTunes or a review. That just helps kind of spread the word. It's not about ego or anything like that, but the more, I'm told, the more likes means the more people see it, or in this case, will listen to it, and then we can reach and hopefully encourage as many people as possible. So, Michelle, thank you again.
Thank you.
Listeners, mom and dad, thank you for listening, and until next time, have a good one.